Ready to see your plants thrive like never before? Let's dive into Real Growers Recharge. Imagine your plants growing faster, stronger and healthier. Real Growers Recharge is like a magical elixir for your garden. Packed with beneficial microbes, it boosts nutrient absorption and enhances root development. Just mix it with water and watch the magic happen. It's that simple. Whether you're a seasoned gardener or just getting started, Recharge makes it easy to achieve lush, vibrant plants. Plus, it's eco-friendly and safe for all types of plants. From veggies and flowers to houseplants, Recharge covers it all. So why wait? Give your garden the boost it deserves with Real Growers. Recharge and enjoy the lush, thriving garden of your dreams. Your plants will thank you.
Go to the link in the description to save big and score free shipping on all Real Growers products, or use coupon code Cortez at checkout. Every time you save, you're also helping the channel bring you content like this.
What's going on, everybody? It's Cortez the Konqueror. Bringing you guys a really special show today, going with the theme that I've had lately, making this series here. But today, I wanted to bring you guys a really close friend of mine, personal family friend at this point. But this is my buddy, J.R. Tokin, and I really want to cover cannabis as an alternative to big pharma and cannabis just as alternative medicine in general. And I really couldn't think of a better person to bring on the show to share his personal experience than my buddy here, J.R. Tokin.
Hey, what's up, everyone? I'm glad to be on the show, Cortez, and I'm definitely happy to share any information I can to kind of help people kind of deal with any kind of medical issues they might have, because I feel like I've been through the gamut enough that I think I can help people steer in the right direction.
Yeah, because, it seems like these days they want to give you like medication to take on top of prescriptions to treat the side effects of the other medication.
For sure. Or a lot of times you just are getting Band-Aids to a problem that they're not really fixing. And then you're just trying to run through their gamut of Band-Aids and fixes that don't really fix the issue.
Right, most definitely. What do they say, though? It's like they make more money from the treatment than from the cure?
Yeah, of course, sure. And that's not to mention that they're poisoning you with all of your options when you go to the grocery store, which are going to lead you to have health issues and need more symptom control.
I was just watching something about that the other day. A lot of the food that like we love in America, like especially like processed snack food, is actually like banned, illegal. Like in other countries, like you can't buy it, you can't sell it.
Yeah.
With a lot of those fillers they use and like the corn syrups and all that shit. Yeah.
And the stuff, the chemicals. I mean, if you look at the ingredient list on most of the factory food options that you find at the grocery store, most of that shit you can't pronounce. You don't know what the fuck it is. You're just assuming they're not there to poison you. But I seen a thing earlier a couple weeks ago that was kind of bringing up the point that as the tobacco addictive industry was kind of going to shit, a lot of those executives and people moved over into the food industry. And if you look at who owns a big portion of Kraft and those food industry folks,
Philip Morris,
they're tobacco industry.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're tobacco industry people. So it kind of makes sense, I guess. So and I like
that they're addicting people through other ways.
Yeah, well, I like to see this younger generation. They're kind of taking responsibility for their food choices, and they're being more conscientious about what they're putting in their bodies as far as, getting access the healthier foods.
Oh yeah. Even with cannabis, look at what we used to do way back when. I still remember growing with TH3 part, you know.
Yeah.
What? Powdery mildew?
Yeah.
Put some 20 on that shit.
Yeah, and I think, you know, we talked about that on our episode we just did with Brad and Neptune about that whole idea, you know, of how the white market, you know, they bring about testing, they bring about these, you know, these standards that kind of make it better for the end user. But then you have the craft grower and knowing your own farmer, know who your farmer is, who are providing the fire, you know. So he's got one is kind of lifting up the other, and hopefully at the end of the day, you know, if you're the kind of person who doesn't feel like they want to hit up their homie down the street, they feel more comfortable going into a store and buying it in a store. There's nothing wrong with that, you know. However you access your medicine and the way you use it, is up to you. Just be a do your work, do your homework, and be a informed consumer. You know what I mean?
A lot of times you can get better stuff from the, I guess we'll say, legacy market. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
It's not something that we're trying to chop down 60, 65 days, a whole bunch of larf, whole bunch of popcorn. It's like, what? And here in Chicago, it's like, I just paid $80 for an eighth of smalls.
Yeah, yeah. And the shelf life of stuff on, you know, by the time they get it processed and dealt with on the market, it's rough. It's rough.
Yeah. So JR, if you wouldn't mind, I know you've gone through a lot of health stuff lately. I know you just had something that really helped you out, but I was kind of hoping that we could get into that a little bit and then get into some of the ways that you use cannabis to treat some of the symptoms or some of the ailments around what you got going on, you know?
For sure. Yeah, absolutely. Let's go.
So where do we start off? So how did you lose your leg exactly? It was like a construction accident? Let's start from the beginning a little bit.
Yeah, I had a construction accident, and the surgeries that put all of my bones back together didn't really work out, and so I developed also these tumors down in my ankle. They're called traumatic neuromas, and they're from like major accidents. It's when the end of a severed nerve or a nerve starts building a tumor on the end of it. And then the end of that tumor, it never just stops firing. And so I had this condition down in my ankle. And at the time, in those days, they didn't know what traumatic neuromas were. And so they told me if I cut my leg off, I'd have like this 98% chance of having a better life. And so I went for it, and they were wrong. As soon as they
really tried to sell you on that, huh?
Yeah, as soon as they cut off my leg, all those severed nerves started growing these tumors. And so they tucked and cut and isolated it down to where I have a tumor that only grows on my sciatic. The other ones have been pretty much taken out, removed, and resected up into my thigh. So that's the one that was giving me this really horrific problems. And so I started using cannabis as medicine, smoking it, just to kind of deal with the acute pain. Because sometimes when you're in a really intense pain cycle, if you do a dab or you hit a joint, it'll take it down a few notches and sometimes make it tolerable. The other side of it is when you're going through all this in your life and you're trying to kind of cope with all this fuckery, it also helps your mental state because it kind of helps you stay centered in kind of a love. For me, it just helped me stay centered in a love kind of energy, and I just plow forward.
A little bit more mellow.
Yeah, just trying to get through each day, doing the best I can under the circumstances. And then once I had cancer, that's when I got introduced to RSO. And that's when I started really understanding what full spectrum edibles, whether they're from rosin, FICO, RSO, whatever you want to call it, if it's a full spectrum edible, then the way your body metabolizes that, your liver, it's different. And so you get a more medicinal, I would almost say like a sedative narcotic effect, depending on the strain.
Well, the narcotic effect.
Yeah.
So how old were you when you had the accident, when you had the construction accident? How long ago was this?
I was a 19-year-old kid. It was like 35 years ago.
About 35 years ago. And then how long was it before?
I was 19 years old, and I had my first kid, and my second child was 2 months old.
Oh, wow. That's got to make things a little rough.
Yeah, the employer, the contractor that I was working for wasn't paying workers' comp insurance on any of us workers. And so when I went to get workers' comp, there was none. And so when you don't have workers' comp, they just put you on, welfare.
Right.
And so then you got to try to feed your family on. I'm like horribly disfigured from this accident. The asshole I'm working for says, sorry, go fuck yourself. And then the state says, here's this, like, it was a joke.
It was not even enough to survive.
No, it was not enough to survive. And I'd already been hustling grams because I lived in a beach community. So I would hustle grams for tourists. And so, a person does what they have to do to feed their families. When everyone in your society says, go fucking starve and go fuck yourself, you're going to do what you have to do to feed your fucking family, man.
Yeah. Surprising what you can do sometimes when there's no other choice. Well, okay, so that was about 35 years ago. But then how long was it before like the cancer set in from like the surgeries and everything?
That was 6 years ago is when
6 years.
6 years ago is when I got my cancer situation. And so I had a big section of my insides cut out, and then the guy who put me back together didn't put my insides back in right, and they tied in a knot, and so was a 19-centimeter section of my small intestines was tied in a knot and went black and died, and so I had to have that cut out of me as well. So I've been through, I think, totally over 25, 26 surgical procedures over the years. And I've navigated every kind of therapy, drugs, all the shit that they've tried. I mean, back in the 90s, it was off the charts what they would give you. It was sick. Oh, yeah. I mean, it really fucked a lot of people up. And there's still some of those.
Look at what they did to kids, like my generation. I'm a little bit younger than you.
Hey,
I'm
bro,
30.
you know what? I want to talk about that a little bit, if you don't mind. I mean, the influences that you kids had about popping, popping perks and shit like that, bro. I don't know that all that messaging wasn't designed to destroy you as a community.
But then when you look at it like this too, the point that I was bringing up, like my generation is, because I was born in 87, grew up, grade school, middle school through the 90s. So it's kind of like my generation. And I was like a hyper ass kid. I could never sit down. So they threw every pill at me imaginable. And my mom was like, oh, I give them a pill and we can fix them. But we got all the Ritalin, all the Adderall, all the Zoloft, all of that crap. But I'm not sure if you know about that one, but it was like experimental dosage.
You're the generation of my children. I was raising you guys when all this shit was going down. I had a kid who was hyperactive. I had a kid who didn't want to sit in a fucking chair in a classroom for 7 hours a day and do dumb shit when he's a little boy, He's not geared for that, and it ain't fucking right. And so their alternative was like, oh, hey, we need to put him on these drugs. We need to put him on this behavior medicine. And we were like, no, go fuck yourself. And guess what? By the time he was in high school, he was totally chilled the fuck out. He totally had a focus. He became vice president of the school. I mean, it was just dumb shit. And if we had put him on that path of Ritalin and all that shit, God only knows where that would have took him, you know?
Right, right. You know, I do know that is sometimes somewhat like a controversial thing, but I know that there is like exceptions, like even in medical cannabis as a replacement for kids who have like autism, some that have like seizures and stuff. Like one of the people we're definitely going to get on the series coming up after you is Chubbs. That's something that he deals with his kid. But it's like, what a wonderful alternative to all of these pills. And then, like you were saying, it's kind of like almost the conditioning of something, you know, we won't quite put our finger on it, but we'll call it the powers that be. Then they come in with the perkies, the music, the cough syrup, and everything else, you know what I mean? But it's almost like if you really wanted to set somebody up to live that lifestyle, why not get them started at a young age with all these pills for hyperactivity and everything else? And then that kind of brings it back to the food of like, oh, well, maybe my kid's hyperactive because it has like 300 times the daily amount of sugar in the snack that I just gave them.
Yeah. Yeah. And they talk about I don't know how all the medical shit works, but there's like giant insulin dumps and spikes and crashes whenever you eat a sugary breakfast right before you go to school. Mm-hmm. So then like 3 hours into it, you're just totally crashed out, burnt down from your sugar high, and they're asking you to do multiplication, you know?
And then you're getting in trouble for falling asleep at your desk.
Right. Yeah. I got in trouble for that a lot.
Yeah. So let's talk about more of the pain aspect, more of the pain management aspect. I know there's been times you've had to deal with some horrendous stuff from like the nerves firing and everything that kind of led into the surgery that you just got recently that's helped out a little bit.
Yeah, it's helped out a tremendous amount. So I would go into these pain cycles that would be at literally an 8 to a 10 for up to 36 to 40 hours at a time sometimes with no relief. The only relief I would get would be when I literally passed out from sheer exhaustion. And sometimes that would only be 3 or 4 hours at a time. And it was just these nightmarish pain cycles. And I finally got to the point where I would let them do the spinal implant. And so I got a spinal cord stimulator put into my spine. And basically it's like a TENS unit, an internal TENS unit that latches on to your spine. And each of the leads have these little leech-looking things that cling onto you. And so they can dial in the zones of where the interruptive signal is. And so then when my tumor is trying to fire the signal up my leg, up to my brain, it blocks it at my spine. It doesn't let the signal get to my brain. And so since my surgery, I've not had a pain cycle at an 8 to a 10. I have had some pain. I would say the most is a 6, maybe a 7. And when I have those cycles in the past, I would lose days. Like I would be really fucked up for 3 or 4 days. And then I would take me a day or two cognitively to kind of get my shit, because you're in a battle. You know, you're in that.
To get your bearings back.
Yeah, just to get your shit back together. And so I could lose like 4 or 5 days in a pain cycle of productivity, where now I might lose, at the most I've lost in a day since then is maybe 60% of one day, just one day. So it's been a tremendous change in my life. And like I developed that
definite improvement.
Yeah, I developed that pain rub for the, for the tumor site, and I pretty much don't even use it anymore. I mean, I use it maybe on the end of my stump after I've been hauling ass all day.
So now, we finally found something that's helped out a bit, brought you some mediation as far as the pain. But when you were going through that time until you got the surgery that finally worked, because I know you've been through a couple trying to find like the right thing to do. What was some of the treatment that you would use, like through cannabis? What were some of, I guess, would you smoke it? Would you take edibles? I know you just mentioned like the topical and everything. If somebody out there is living in some type of pain like that, what are some of their alternatives to just taking like an opioid?
I would definitely say the first thing, if you have even gotten yourself into an opioid cycle and you're looking to get out of that cycle, you want to do like a RSO. You want to do something that's going to be heavy enough to help you exit off that opioid in a way that's safe. Obviously, you want to kind of wean down the best you can till you get to that point where you're ready to jump off. But when you do jump off, you want to do a heavy edible. If you're just going to rely on smoking, it's probably not going to do what you need. And so hitting that heavy RSO is going to help you with the nights. People who exit opioids, and when you exit opioids, that sickness, the night times fucking haunt you. You can't sleep. It'll invent pain you didn't know that you even had, emotionally, physically, whatever. And so if you take enough RSO, it will knock you unconscious. Like literally, you'll be out for hours. And sometimes that's what you need. That's what you need.
Right,
And so
right.
on cannabis, kind of the theme that we talk about is there's two parts to addiction, right? There's the physical dependency, and then there's the addictive behavior, those drug-seeking behaviors. And that's the work that you got to do, because you can exit, but if you don't work on that stuff that's causing, or that is kind of the underlying issue of your drug-seeking behavior, then what's going to happen is you're just going to replace one for another. You're going to find you'll end up, what happens commonly is people will just start drinking more than they usually do. And then
Right,
2 or 3 years,
right.
then 2 or 3 years down the road, they're drinking a lot more than they used to, because they didn't deal with that shit in here that they got to deal with. So when you are ready to exit and you're ready to make that physical jump and do the work that it takes, I'll just be frank, to get your shit together and change those cycles of behavior, RSO can be a big help, and so can psilocybin therapy. The psilocybin therapy that you can get access to in legal states or even in other areas can be a huge reset for you. Because a lot of times that internal baggage can be resolved in maybe a 10 or 12-hour session. And so when you leave that session, you may have that resolved, but the work isn't done, because you're going to have to keep working on a daily basis to kind of change those behavioral patterns. And that might be
It's like the
losing a few
little
friends, and that's
rituals,
hard.
like the little habits we build. It's
And the
like,
people we
oh,
hang
I'm
around
drinking.
with.
If I have one cocktail, that might be all right. If I have 3 or 4 cocktails, I might want a bag of cocaine. Here, let me start going through my
Right.
phone.
Word.
Yeah, so it's kind of like that whole like
Word.
danger spotting aspect type of thing. You know
Right.
what I mean?
Yeah.
But
And
it's
so
kind of
you
funny
can use
that you're
those.
using cannabis and you're talking about it as an exit, because everybody usually calls it a gateway drug.
Yeah, that's the big lie. And I think that's part of this whole big lie about our access to nature. The nature will provide the things to heal you mentally, physically, and spiritually. Every aspect of your being can be healed through the plants and the fungi that this earth provides. But the people who control our society and control us, the system of control, doesn't want you to have access to nature. They block your access to nature. They did it to the Native Americans, and they do it to all of us, every citizen of this United States. They block our access to nature and healing ourselves.
I mean, as a kid, like no matter what was wrong with any of us, my grandmother, she came from Austria, and we come from like the mountains, made our own clothes, farmed, hunted, made our own liquor, all that stuff. But anything that was wrong with you, she had something, she had a different kind of plant in the backyard. She used to have these, they were in Port St. Lucie, Florida. And outside in the ground, she used to have these monstrous aloe vera plants. And this is like late 80s, early 90s. So that, like, this is before aloe vera was like a thing. Like nobody knew what that was.
Yeah, totally. And so a lot of those traditions and a lot of that knowledge, it kind of got robbed from us. And so now we're relying on science to kind of bridge some of the gaps that we've lost in the traditions of our elders, to try to bring some of that naturopathic medicine back to the table. And that's why I'm saying, like, even that pain rub, that recipe that I share with everyone, one of the components of it is called Dit the Jiao. And Dit the Jiao is a Chinese herbal medicine. It's a combination of a multiple of herbs and flower petals and all kinds of cool shit, roots and stuff, to make this product, or to make this rub that is a vascular healing, bruise healing ointment, and it's also a massive anti-inflammatory. And so
Isn't that something that kickboxers use, if I'm not mistaken?
Yeah, the MMA community has passed around, the knowledge of it, and is actually how I got turned on to it. And it's a part of the cannabis oil that I infuse. I add it to that, and then I buy the CBD isolate from Future Compounds. I think it's futurecompounds.com or whatever. Big shout out to Future 4200. But his CBD isolate, like, I think it's only like an eighth of a teaspoon, is like 500 milligrams. And so you can buy a bag of just CBD isolate and add it to your own ointments and your own rubs. So it ends up being full spectrum from the coconut oil, with a spike of that CBD, which makes it more on that 1-to-1 level, which I kind of would like to talk about that too, is utilizing multiple cannabinoids for what their kind of medical profiles will do for you. If you're really if you're really having issues with insomnia and sleep is a big problem for you, CBN is a very sedative cannabinoid. So if you can get really good source CBN through a rosin or an edible, or a rosin gummy, or some kind of full spectrum edible, it's going to help you with sleep. And so say that you're dealing with something that's more on the pain side of things, and you're wanting something more of a narcotic effect, then you definitely want to make sure that you have heavy CBDs, and you want to I know those traditional terms of indica and sativa are kind of dead, but if you follow those kind of terms and lineages to the genetics that lean towards the heavier indica side of things, they're going to provide you a much more sedative effect in what you're trying to accomplish in medicating yourself. So on top of that, then you look at what the terpene profiles provide, because they have a whole nother level of medical benefits that are added to the
whole entourage effect comes in.
Exactly, the entire effect of everything, and that's important to talk about too. And that's why sometimes going with like a CO2 cart, you're not going to get the medicine out of a CO2 cart that you're going to get out of a live rosin.
especially if it's like distillate or
situation.
something, some garbage. You know, I want to pick your brain a little bit too. So we kind of got into the different strains, got into some of the terpenes, the entourage effect. Do you have any advice for somebody that's maybe coming over to like the cannabis community from like not just an opioid, but like an actual heroin or fentanyl addiction? I want to lead with this question, and it's about the terpenes. I've heard that for somebody that's coming off the dope, that the OG strains are good for them. Something about the terpene, I think it might be linolin. Don't quote me on the terpene, but I've heard that the OG is good for people trying to make like a heroin withdrawal.
Exit.
Yeah.
And so, like I said, you would want to take a variety like that, that's heavy, and you would want to mix that in, or you would want to create an RSO out of that. RSO concentrate. I think they call it FICO in the industry, which is a full extract cannabis oil. Anything like that that's going to be from a heavier variety. And so when you're sourcing your stuff, that also comes into play, because if I give you RSO from my Tiki Rain, it's going to be completely different than if I give you the RSO from Cherry Paloma. RSO from Cherry Paloma might fucking, who knows, get you going. Where if I give you the RSO,
get you a little hyper.
I give you the RSO. Yeah, if I give you the RSO of the Tiki Rain, it's just going to go straight to the pain.
Right.
I mean, there's something about the profile of that plant, and that's a very special plant. I was able to get back to Tiki for tissue culturing, and it has a strange profile. It's THCA dominant.
Really?
Has almost equal amounts of CBDA and THC, Delta 9, but it also has presence of almost every cannabinoid tested for. Is there in some amount. Is there in some amount. And so the profile that it provides is unlike any kind of variety RSO I've ever tried.
Do you know what the cross is on it? Do you know what the parents are on the Tiki Rain?
It's his Gorilla Candy by something. And when I talked to Tiki about it, he said that the lineage of it is, in those traditional terms, a true sativa with a true indica, creating a true hybrid, not a polyhybrid like most of the stuff we see out now, but a real true hybrid of the mother and father. And like I said, it's a very special plant. The flower of it, when you smoke the flower, it has a creeper effect, but it's not a satisfying smoke. Like when you smoke a OG and you just get that kind of feeling, you don't really get that with a Tiki. It affects your pain. It definitely is a pain blocker, and it has a creeper effect. But you feel very light, like it's really light. It's not heavy at all. So when I smoke the flower of it, I always pair it in a salad with something heavy. But now I pretty much don't even use it in its flower form at all. I just have a jar of Tiki RSO, Tiki Rain RSO, that I hit morning, noon, or night if I have any kind of pain issues. That's the first go-to I go to now. And
is that one a pretty good producer for oils?
As far as a washer, I'm not sure.
Well, I mean, like even to press it. Does it press?
Yeah,
well?
I have no idea. Okay. Really, the variety, when he gave it to me, it was just this DL strain that he had, that he gave to all his military.
I got you.
He gave to all his military vet buddies, and he knew I was real. And he knew I was really fucked up. So Tiki shot me a cut of it, and the story is kind of wild.
You knew you'd be a good candidate.
Yeah, definitely. And so we're hoping me and him are going to do some collaborative work within the community to try to help get the tiki rain out there to some folks.
That's really cool.
Yeah, stay
Yeah,
tuned
actually,
for that.
I just took. Well, it's not Tiki's breeding, but it was the Tiki Madman cut of the blackberry. I just pulled that out today, day 63. I'm going to give that one 2 days in darkness, so I'm going to chop at 65. I've got your Paloma, a couple other things from you. That blue slushies is looking great. That peanut butter pie is looking out of this world. I'm almost kind of tempted to go past 70 with them, too. You think I could get away with it? Maybe like 77, 78?
I went 9.5, 10 weeks on both peanut butter and Paloma. And peanut butter pie, its lineage is basically like a 4-way OG cross.
I remembered you saying that. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a bunch of OG in there, and it's very sedative and very soothing. It's what I say is it's like a hug to your brain.
And the bag appeal on it's nuts.
Nuts.
Big shout out. Who found that one? Risky Resin?
Risky Resin.
Big shout out.
Risky Resin. And he's original OG DGC Rosin Ryan. That's
why I had it 2 ways. Okay. That's why I had it 2 ways. All right.
Yes. So, yeah, he found that, and Raw works closely with him, and he hunts some amazing shit. He's got a Rain Man cut right now that he hunted out of the Raw gear, and it's like, he said skunky as fuck, really skunky, and it looks fire. Like, it's amazing how many different breeding projects Brad has going, but almost every pack is going to produce some kind of fire for sure.
Right. Yeah,
like I'm on that mega OG
from him by now. It's definitely got that. What are the kids calling it these days? That little exotic look about it.
Definitely, and he has access to some of the most amazing genetics for his breeding. Like that Cherry Paloma, he got the relentless cut from the breeder of Trop Cherry to use to breed with his Georgia pie to make the Cherry Paloma. So he has access to some of the most amazing cuts.
Some pretty exclusive cuts out there. Yeah. You know what I'm really excited about right now, though, but I got it vegging out right now is I don't know who I got it from. Maybe my buddy K.R. Tokin. Maybe your twin brother there, but I got
you got it from me, bro.
Okay, I didn't want to say it, but yeah. So I got that Hawaiian snow cone. I'm really excited about that one. I went a little too long. I went a little too long in the 1 gallon though, and I got a little angry at me. But she's kind of bouncing back. I got her in a tall 5. I got a bunch of organics in there. I got the grow dots in there, the recharge.
Yeah, I know the feeling. I'm in 2 gals, and I'm ready to flip into my room, and they're already starting to get a little mad.
Well, I had some autos in front of that, so it was like I had to clear them out to make the space. So you know what I mean? Sometimes it's kind of like, do I put these into flower now, or do I go a little bit longer on this harvest type of thing?
Yeah, I'm going to turn this light down, actually. These HLG 350Rs, man, you can't really turn them up much at all, or your plants get angry.
You know, I've heard that.
Yeah, I'm getting rid of them. I'm getting rid of 2 of them anyways.
What were you thinking about getting?
This company called Sunscape. I'm going to be trying out their bar veg light, and they've got they've also got a flower light that has a adjustable spectrum, so you can do spectrum recipes light recipes for your flower cycle.
Very nice. And that's as far as like the blues and the reds and the whites and all that stuff, or?
And far red, you can adjust your far red as well. Because I think it's one of the issues with LED lights just in general is if you don't have an adjustable spectrum, then it's best to have a dedicated flower light, and it's best to have a dedicated veg light in LED. If you have high spikes of red and stuff like that in your veg lights, sometimes that can be an issue. Far red and all that.
I've heard that. I've actually heard too much far red can produce like intersexual traits, like hermaphrodite issues.
Well, I just noticed that, like I said, the plants are really sensitive, and I feel like if you look at where we came from, that HPS kind of spectrum, where there was that spike of blue and there was the red and the orange and everything that bled into the yellow and everything up to that red. Where some lights you see out nowadays, it's like a big spike of blue, a big spike of red, and then not much in between. It's
Right.
And some brands are trying to say, oh, well, we're an all-purpose light that's mimicking the sun. Well, which month of the sun? Is it July or October? Because the sun is completely different in July than it is in October.
Definitely. Yeah, I think I got the Evil 8. I know I can do some type of like sunrise, sunset feature with it, but I don't think I can play around with the diodes like that.
Yeah, I don't. If they're allowing you to do sunrise and sunset, that makes me think that you're able to change the spectrum in some way. I would imagine. I'm not sure. I'm not.
You might be able to. Like, I got the controller 69 and everything, but I don't know. I'm still like a caveman, so I pretty much got like minimal settings on there.
I'm pretty sure with that controller, I don't think you could. That's the other cool thing with this lighting company is they have an external controller that you can run multiple lights on, like a lot of lights on if you want. And so it's nice that you can kind of wire your controller outside your tent or outside,
with the drivers and everything, reduce some of the heat.
Yeah, that, and also if you're in a room and you have like humidifiers that are above you, or you have, dehumidifiers that leak or whatever.
Yeah.
It's best not to have your controller inside the room or wherever you're.
Or even maybe if you want to go in there and spray real good one day or something.
That's the other thing about these lights is you can literally spray them with a pressure washer and you're not going to hurt the light. And so people with the open diode design, if you go in there and you spray something like Lost Coast or some kind of horticultural oil, you could really, if you accidentally...
Like a neem or something?
Yeah, any of that's going to build up on those open fixtures. And
I remember I sprayed, I got some, I think it was like a Mars Hydro TSW 2000 or something, but I got a couple sparks on it. I was like, oh, shit.
Yeah, it's funny because I've
done that.
I have this Mars Hydro bar that I just run off on the side of the room just for the fuck of it. And
the FC500 is not a bad light. They've come a long way from where they started at.
The genetic,
with that new light you're getting, do they got the app with it? Do they got the smart controls? So
yeah, so you'll be able to control it through an app or through smart controls. And they're also teamed up with Pulse from Pulse Grows. And so they're doing a lot of R&D, and they're doing real data-driven growing that is, going to push the envelope of what LED is right now. Because I feel like, even most engineers will admit that efficiency is going to come from red. So these guys are pushing red like it's crazy because that's going to give them the efficiency ratings to be the most efficient light on the market, right? So you got, I mean, I'm telling you, the cannabis industry, as much as we are a loving community of growers and smokers, some sides of our industry are pretty fucking shady, bro.
Yeah. But a lot of those lights, you got to kind of consider the source, like especially all the Samsung 301 diode. Like that's all coming from like Korea, Taiwan.
Well, not only that, if every light a manufacturer that you're looking at is using those exact same diodes,
The same diodes.
whatever, and they're charging you a $600 difference, then you should do your homework.
Yeah. What is it when I look at a light? I'm not going to lie. The first thing I want to see out of a light is what size space am I putting in and how many true watts does it pull out of the wall? Not, oh, the cheap China Amazon light. Like this is like 1,000 watts, but it's really only pulling 350. No, I want to see how many watts are coming from the wall. After I look at the watts, I'm looking at the micromoles. I know the light I got right now, I'm pulling 730 watts out of the wall. If I got that thing cranked and it's at 3.1 because it's got the Samsung 301 diodes.
Nice, nice. Yeah, so that's going to be plenty light to do your 4x4, 5x5 area, you know?
I got a 5x5. I would have liked 1,000-watt light in there, but at the same time, I'm in like an older building, so it's kind of like what my power can handle, and like everything's still playing nice together. And then that's kind of the other thing too. I live in a building to where I don't have access to my circuit breaker. So if I knock power out from an air conditioning unit, I don't have bad luck with the lights, and it's actually kind of fucked up. The circuit I always blow is me and my wife's bedroom, and it's just it's like, how am I pulling all that power out of the other room? But this is the only one that trips. But nonetheless, I got to call property management to send one of the maintenance guys out to unlock the basement to flip the circuit breaker.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
that's a nightmare. Yeah.
That's the big city. There's
right, yeah, no
a lot of apartment buildings you don't have access to your own circuit breaker, and it's such a pain in the ass.
Yeah. Right on.
So what's some of the stuff that you're working on, JR? I know you've been doing a lot of traveling lately.
We just finished up the Emerald Cup. We had a booth. Cannabis had a booth there at the Emerald Cup. That was a great time. I've been doing a lot of soil and organic system seminars and stuff like that. So,
I just seen you with who was it? Blackhead or who was the breeder?
Go Ahead Garden. Yeah, Go Ahead Gardens and I did a kind of a demo on how to build your own.
I seen you mixing up that soil.
Clackamas Coots mix. And then after that, Brandon Hudson from Kiss Organics, which is Tad Hussey's kind of crew. He did a seminar on limitations in organic systems. And so that is about an 1.5 hour episode that just went out. And then yesterday I was at a conference at the college, and they allowed you to do a full day of classes. And so I did a soil health and soil testing class and was able to film that class and the demos. And so I'm editing that right now. So you'll learn a little bit about soil health and just soil testing.
That's really cool. What's some of the stuff that you guys are testing for in there, like heavy metals or?
Yeah, so it's like fertigation. It's basically, it boils down to the things you want to be in there and the things you don't want to be in there. So you test for the things that you want to be in there to find out if they're at the levels you want them to be. And then you test for the things you don't want to be in there to make sure you're not wasting your fucking time producing a medicine that's never going to pass a test.
Right. A lot of people run into that with outdoors, don't they? But it's like something that could have like come from the next field over and the groundwater carried it type of thing.
There's a lot of different ways those kind of contaminations happen. And that's why testing is important, I think, for people. And so even for people who are doing living soil beds and they're on consistent runs after runs, they need to do soil testing to see where they're at, to see what they need, and, to be able to augment it accordingly. And one of the things we talked about is that, for outdoor growers at the end of your season, you've taken a lot out of that soil in remediating with the plant that you're growing. And so putting back at the end of the season to make sure at the beginning of season you have what you need to successfully do another run is very important. So you'd want to test your soil at the end of your season to see where you're at, so you could use some organic inputs or some mineral inputs or whatever inputs you needed to build your soil so that the next growing season it was fully robust and ready to go.
What are some of the things you add? What are some of the amendments, and more so the minerals, because that's the one that I actually don't really have a handle on.
For like the Coots mix, the amendments that he kind of designed to go in that Cornell mix, because the base of the Coots mix is the Cornell 1/3, 1/3, which is like composted organic matter, and then aeration, and then on top of that is the input.
I really like the purple cow non-manure compost. I've been using that one for a couple of years now.
Yeah, so like for me, for the organic input, instead of compost, I'm just using earthworm castings from, I think it's, I forgot the name of the worm gold or whatever it is. And it's got a little kelp in there, a little amended stuff along with it.
Ooh,
but that's kind of that's the main organic base for mine. And then we use pumice, because here in the Northwest, we're in a volcanic region. Perlite breaks down and turns into concrete. You don't want to use that. So we use the pumice as in a fine form and a coarse form for aeration.
Kind of like the Build a Soil 3.0 light. That's actually how I came across the pumice.
Yeah, and then on the for the other part of it, we use just the peat moss, and we use the Aurora's Canadian peat, the good shit. And so once you mix those third units, you add your inputs, and the inputs are all basically the things that a cannabis plant is going to need to have broken down and delivered to it. So it's not ionically available like through chelated pour in a bottle nutrients. This is all stuff that's going to get systematically broken down and delivered to the plant.
A little bit more of a slow burn.
As the plant desires it, it's communicating with the microbes and the biology to give through the fungi networks and the bacteria and stuff the nutrients that it needs at the stage of growth that it needs it. So it's only asking for what it needs. And as long as you have the delivery systems to give it what it needs, then I feel like the genetic expression of the plant is the best I've seen compared to any other growing style. That's not to say that GH3 part doesn't weigh cups, because the winner of the cup in 2019 Dude Grows was GH3 part.
I think I remember hearing that, actually.
Yeah, so I mean, but I'm saying from my experience, the best weed that I've ever smoked came from natural soil, and it was when I was a kid. The old timer who was growing at the time was using just an old, just his own soil blend that he made. And it was the best fucking weed I've ever smoked. And I never really seen weed on that kind of level until I tried people who were doing the Coots mix. And that living soil Coots mix, man, it just makes, like if you look at the Paloma on this round that I just did, it's on another level, and I've been growing it for 3 or 4 years. And the living soil that I used in that Bio 365 version, their version of living soil in a bag, man, it cranked out some super fire.
That's like my buddy Buzzbean. I think you know him now too. He's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I actually met him at a grow store.
That's wild. Yeah, I've been hooking him up with genetics.
Yeah. Oh, he kills it, and I've gotten some Paloma from him. I think that's like one of my favorite, besides a couple other people, because the cherry Paloma, it's so funny. It can go from everything from like sweet, kind of tangy, to I've had like some people that have grown it where it's been like a little bit more of like a sour. But no, he definitely does it right, and he's all organic.
Yeah, he's Build a Soil 3.0 mix, and I don't know if he does like a barley or any teas. I don't know how he totally gets down. But I know the base of his mix.
The bokashi too, for like that.
Yeah, I mixed
mycelium kind of layer on the top.
Southern Oregon bokashi is going to be coming on the show this weekend, and he blessed me with some bokashi that I did add to my Coots mix.
Nice. Yeah, I haven't tried it, but I don't know, it's been like a morbid curiosity lately. But I still usually do salts as well, but I do have like my living soil mix that I do, super soil, whatever you want to call it. But I do compost and earthworm castings. The same grow shop where I met Busby, this really cool place here in Chicago, Chicago Roots Hydroponic. One of the guys there, I want to say it's his brand, or I'm not sure exactly, but it's the Karma Castings. They're Egyptian night crawlers. Yeah, I don't know the science behind it exactly, but I guess those are supposed to be like really good ones.
Yeah, that's one of the popular options at Northwest Concentrates now is the African night crawlers.
Oh, African night crawlers, yeah. Yeah, but I put so much organics like in my soil. I actually get like nice layers of like mycelium on top of my pots. Sometimes I'll get little mushrooms that come out. I've had that a couple times. Right now I actually have this like little plant that's growing out of one of those peanut butter pies that I got flowering.
Nice.
It's probably just like a weed, but I've just kind of left it because it looks cool. It's like my little unintentional cover crop.
Yeah, a little volunteer.
But I've actually, I don't know, since I am doing those in 2 gallons, like I'm just kind of in like a DIY closet that was like a side project, whatever you want to call it. I did want to go the bottled nutrient route. So I've actually been doing the full new mill line for those. But I've been doing Jaren's secret sauce recipe. So it's with like the silicium, with the green sensation by Flagrant and everything. It's been turning out pretty crazy, though. I'm on day 63 today. I've been dropping my room at night, too. So I've been dropping down to like 65 degrees lights off just to give it more of like the purples and everything. The fade on that blue slushies is going crazy, though. I definitely got to give that one to you. And that's the one I wanted. And it's almost smells like, what did you call it? Adhesive and onions?
Mm-hmm. That's what I think it smells like.
It's got a really nice little morose quality that I'm quite fond of. I like the stinky weed.
Yeah, it's definitely on the rancid side.
I love it. Get to gross my wife out a little bit.
I got to step out of the trim room for a little bit here. But yeah, I'm trimming right now in trim jail.
Oh, well,
Yeah, in
JR.
fact, I'm sure the wife is like, okay.
Time's up. You've played with your friends for long enough. I don't know if it's anything like over here. My wife kind of is the boss. I'm just kind of more the face, you know what I mean? But JR, I want to thank you so much for your time, man. You truly are a living legend in this community, sir. Take my hat off to you.
Well, I try to serve my community the best that I possibly can. And if we don't level each other up, we're going to get squashed.
That's definitely a true statement. Yeah, that's why it's so good, you know, as cannabis content creators or influencers, whatever you want to call it. We really do got to share each other's stuff just because the algorithm tries to push us so far down, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's really the only way that we really can reach out to like broader audiences if we kind of stand together as a community and support each other.
Yeah, and I think stay true to your brand, you know. Don't try to let what the Matrix is telling you should be doing, because that might be to the detriment of your brand.
Most definitely. You gotta stay true to yourself. You gotta blaze your own path in this life.
Yeah,
but,
like I said, serve your community, man.
Yeah. But on the way out here, JR, do you got any shout outs? Anything coming up soon that we should look out for?
Yeah, definitely check us out at cannabis.app. The app is a fully functional app for the cannabis and mushroom community. That is a safe space for us to post and not get deleted, shadow banned, or any other crap. It also is the way that you support Cannabis as a podcast, the mission that we're on. And it's a good group of people. It's a small group now, but it's going to be popping when we make it popping. And it's a safe space for the cannabis community. So show up and make some friends. And
don't got to worry about your stuff getting deleted.
Yeah, and support support the community that, like I said, that you're a part of. If you're in a cannabis community, you're in a group of individuals, lift each other up, help each other elevate, and try to support, all the people who are out here trying to get the word out.
Most definitely. All right, JR, we definitely got to get you on for a part 2. Maybe we could do a follow-up in a couple weeks here and get a little bit more into that pain rub.
Yeah, no problem. Definitely.
All right, so that's something to look out for too. But until next time, guys.
Growers love.
Peace.
Nice one, Cortez.